Welcome, everyone. I'm Kevin Carpenter, volunteer for C++ Now this time. And I'm here with Inbal Levi. We're going to talk about, she's got a talk coming up called Let's Talk About C++ Abstraction Layers. This year it's C++ Now. And we just want to talk about the conference with you. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Inbal.
Sure. So my name is Inbal Levi. I'm the Israeli NB chair, and I'm an active ISO committee member. I'm also the chair of SG9 Ranges. And I'm very excited to be here. I think, anyway, C++ Now is really, I think, one of the best conferences we have, if not the best.
Well, and I mean, you liked the conference enough that you ended up being program chair, right? So what's that like, being program chair?
Well, I'm really honored and really excited. I have to say, when I was offered this position, I was really excited. I think it's probably the most the conference in the front line of C++, and it's amazing to be the program chair of something like that. All the brand new ideas and topics coming up. I think it's really a great place to get to know of the most recent ideas in C++ world, and people get excited hearing about the latest standard and talking about latest standard and maybe the next one that is in planning. But I think C++ Now really looks toward the future of C++, which is an amazing conference in that regards.
Yeah, last year was my first experience at C++ Now, and I have to say from where I was at, it's like C++ Now has always been this kind of quaint gathering, because we only have at most 140 attendees just because of the size of things, and so it's almost a bit more intimate. But at the same time, with everything that Boost has been behind it, I was always scared. I thought it was a little bit too academic for me, but it turned out last year, it's just, there's a few people I talked to that said it's the one conference that they always want to go to just because it just feels so much more close-knit and you're just really there with everybody. What was your thought last year on it?
So it was actually my first conference as well last year. I haven't, yeah, and I already gave 2 talks. Was really intimidating. Yeah, I mean, I also was clearly aware of C++ Now's history as BoostCon, and still having the people that are basically designing how C++ would look like. And now we have talks about language used to focus on library, but still no matter what comes there is what you're going to see in the next few years. So yeah. I really was intimidated as well. But it ended up being a great experience, and I really recommend people to go to the conference. Whenever I speak with anyone, naturally it can be intimidating, but I think people are extremely nice, and I felt like the atmosphere is great. Venue itself is also really nice. So I think in general, it's a conference that allow you to go to a person that actually have a brand new idea of something that is like really on development, and talk with them about how you see their idea. And they don't always have to agree with you, but it's definitely going to be an interesting discussion. So,
I'm glad you say that about discussion, because that is the thing that I think is also different. Like, I have experience with CPP on C and CPP Con, and the one thing that I noticed with C++ Now is that even in the talks, there's a lot more interaction going back and forth. And then the other part that I think is really cool is the library in a week. I think it's Jeff Garland and Marshall. Yeah. So you get there on Monday and everybody's meeting in the morning and they're all just working on pushing together a feature, that by the end of the week ends up coming together. And there really is, it's not just community, it's a bit more than that, because it's just the interaction with everyone working together. And, from my perspective, I see a lot of it because we're out there volunteering. So anything that comes up, we want to be there to help. But so are there any talks you're looking forward to this year?
Yeah, so actually there are quite a few of them. I just want to mention that we may also have a feature in a week, which is also awesome in my mind.
That's right.
And that's brand new. Yeah, so first of all, I mean, I don't know if people are aware, but I think that the whole topic of successful language of C++ and the whole topic of C++ future directions is really, really interesting. It creates interesting discussions in lots of aspects, and this is personally, it's one of my favorite topics, language design, and as a concept. So
Right.
I think our planned discussions and panels are going to be really, really exciting for everyone that wants to have a peek to that. So this is something I'm really looking forward to. In general speaking, the first day that focus on future of C++.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. I mean, if I could split myself into three, that would be really useful. But I can't, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch the videos.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. Right. It's a good thing they're recorded.
Definitely. Yeah, but every single talk, and other than that, there's really a lot of interesting things there going on there, and there's Barry's talk that's gonna focus on a topic that we just discussed on recent ISO meeting, and still isn't solved in terms of long term. We don't have a long term solution for it, which I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Barry have to say about that.
Right.
Um, there's also the Boost MP11 talk by Judy, and I think it's going to be fascinating. Focusing on what's the latest developments. There's quite a lot of talks there. Lisa's talk about why loops end, for example, I think it's always like Lisa always have great insights
Oh
about
yeah,
everything.
Lisa's talks are always they're talks that I end up watching once or twice because they're just it's not broad, they're deep. The concepts are just really strong, at least for me. I enjoy watching her talks. I agree.
Yeah, and also, of course, like we have quite a lot of representatives from Carbon, and
Yep.
there's going to be the sort of half a workshop, a long, like 2 sessions talk about tooling in Carbon, which is also fascinating in my mind because there's the recent proposal talking about how to have API for tool, basically how to have some kind of fixed way to interact between IDEs and static analysis tools and other things that are in the ecosystem of C++. And I think it's really fascinating to see how Carbon is doing it and really relevant.
It,
So definitely gonna go, and get some ideas from there and maybe even import that into the standard if possible.
right on. So you've been going to conferences for a while, right? I mean, do you remember what your first conference you went to was?
Yeah, I think it was CppCon 2019. I mean, actually, we had this was the first international conference, but I was in CoreC 2019, the one that we had in Israel, and it was
Yep.
actually my first conference and also the first conference I gave talk at. So it
Right
was really
on.
awesome.
So here's my question for you. If someone's new coming to a conference and they haven't been before, what are some tips that you would recommend for someone who hasn't been to a conference before?
So first of all, I would, there's so many things as like naturally people may be intimidated by first of all meeting people that they wrote your favorite, language or library feature. So first of all, my first recommendation would be not to be intimidated, and people are super nice, and feel free to approach people and talk with them, and have an opinion, even if it's not, even if it's controversial. And again, it's all about the discussion. And sometimes you think that what you have in mind is, doesn't make any sense, or you think that maybe someone already thought of it, but it's not always the case. And go to talks that are interesting for you. Even if you're not sure that you're familiar with the topic. Template metaprogramming, for example, is something that I'm always fascinated by, and I always find new tricks and learn new things, and new use cases and other. So feel free to go to talks, even if you don't feel that you're 100% familiar with the specific topic. That's one of the reasons to go to talks. And even if you're not familiar with it, you can always look it up later. You can always, it extends your knowledge on the topic, and if you're interested in it, that's the important thing. So, don't feel that you have to know at least 5 template books by heart before you go to a metaprogramming talk or something along those lines. It's definitely
it's kind of the idea. You're supposed to bite off a little more than you can chew, because that's how you get a little bit stronger and work with the language more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you buy a bit more than little, then that's also fine.
There's some talks I've gone into where I'm like, I needed a life preserver, but I came out swimming, so I'm okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely my first conferences, CppCon, for example, I was intimidated by not being familiar with all the terms and all the different things that people were referring to, which were part of the standardization process, for example, which I wasn't familiar with. Sometimes there are terms, especially in conferences like CppNow, which a large portion of the people are also involved in standardization process. They may be using terms that people that are not involved haven't heard, and that's totally fine to ask. And it's totally fine. There's you can search it online, but there's also a few good info sources for those terms. Definitely go to talks and get yourself familiar with a larger portion of the C++ world. And
so, as we were talking, I just kind of realized something, and I know that CoreC++, I think you've been to that, and you said 2019, but then I remember also hearing you say the fact that when we're doing introductions, is it the SG9 committee that you're on, or that you lead?
Yeah, I'm the chair of SG9 Ranges Group.
Okay, so to everybody else who's watching this, I just want to point that out, because to me that's really cool. So 2019 was one of your first sets of conferences, and now you're chair for one of the standards groups. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome. I'm sorry. That's awesome.
I have to say, the whole process. I mean, I've always got encouragement from people. I've always got, I should mention Bryce, the person that actually suggested that we'll open the national body for Israel. It was before we actually knew what that meant. Mm-hmm. And we followed his lead, and later on I also got involved in Library Revolution and other committee groups. Yeah, it's definitely a great journey, and I hope that I'll be able to have a significant impact, and I think I already have some, and I hope I'll be able to help more. I really think that this is one of the best way to invest my time at.
Cool.
And I do invest a lot of time in committee meetings, but I really am very happy about it, and see this as a very important part of my life.
That's cool. So I could literally go on recording for hours, but that probably wouldn't do too well. So let's say this. Do you want to plug your talk that you're doing this?
Sure.
in 10 days, and then we can work on closing up from there?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I'm very excited about this talk. It's actually, it's not purely technical. The talk is referring to abstraction layers that we have in C++, and we don't actually have terminology for that. So I'm basically
Mm-hmm.
defining the terminology and building a model during the talk. And I find this really exciting. And I've also explicitly, I, I've marked this talk as audience participant one because I really want to have this as interactive one, and that's why I think also the C++ Now is basically the best conference to do this talk at. I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to people's input. Yeah, so unlike my previous talk from last year, talks actually, were really technical, a lot of code snippets. This one, I'm showing code snippets, but the idea is to actually have a more generalized discussion and to affirm work in a way of C++. And I'm really excited about it because I know that I'm going to get good input in C++ now.
Oh yeah.
And yes,
Yeah.
and 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 I think it's a really good and fitting conference for that kind of a talk.
Yeah.
So I hope to, I hope to get people interested in that, and I hope to also use this model later, maybe in the standardization process. That's one of my stretch goals, assuming people would like it. And yeah, definitely, I couldn't find a better audience.
It's interesting because when I think of abstraction layers and stuff, we all, I think there's a lot of us, or at least I'm speaking for myself, right? I write a lot of code. I know I'm writing abstraction layers, or at least I think I am. And so, your point where you're like the terminology on it's kind of it makes me think of design patterns, and I reference that because Jason Turner just did one of his short videos where he's like, he was thinking of doing stuff on design patterns, and we talked shortly because he researched for days and he ended up making one video saying, yeah, I'm not going to do design patterns because it's not my specialty. But I think of design patterns as being more of a holy grail, at least for me. I think abstraction layers I can grasp a bit better. So I will look forward to your talk because that's one of those parts that it's like one of those things I think I do. And I guess to that part, we were talking about biting off more you can chew in a talk. It's one of those ones where I think I have an idea about it, but it'll be nice to come and, the information that I will get from seeing your talk and asking questions, it's going to build on it either way. And I think that's an exciting part about, all the talks that we end up seeing. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so the abstract saying explicitly that, abstraction layers is like a basic thing that we learn in CS, and every
Mm-hmm.
undergraduate, have some grasp of this concept. But I actually think that we can do better. And that's basically one of the points of the talk is to actually have a better definition of abstraction layers than what we have in mind, which is, as you say, like everyone are using that during a development process.
Yeah.
But I really think that we can do better.
Right
And
on.
that hopefully I'll be able to convince you in that during the talk.
I would be surprised if you don't. All right. So before I let you go, I just want to let everyone know we are about 10 days out. And, as we were saying at the beginning of the interview, C++ Now has a limited attendance, and we are down to the final slot. So if you want to see Inbal's talk, plus, Sean Parent and Herb Sutter and Bryce
I
is
can't
going.
believe I didn't mention those.
Yeah, well, I wasn't asking you about those, but if you want to see some really great talks in a very, intimate setting with a lot of, people, with a beautiful background, which you see behind me, this is from one of the hiking trails there in Aspen. Hop on over to the site and, get your ticket in. And Inbal, I look forward to seeing you in, like 11 days.
Yeah, me too. And thank you so much for this interview. And I'm really looking forward to the conference.
Me too. I will talk to you more soon. Have a great afternoon, Inbal. Or I guess evening on your side.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.